Hey there, Shortcuts. This is Stephen here. Video 1 for the price list that will go out this Wednesday, March 18th. Already the 18th of March. This first tranche of records is a 90s and 2000s list. The next list will be a Japanese and genre list. So hopefully something in here that you will enjoy. If you are not on the price list but would like to be, look for the forms link in the information or in the description below, or wait till the end of the video and I will tell you the email address to send to. So as I said, this is a 90s list. So we've got, Pavement, Chaos, Block Party, Travis, etc., Doves, Fugazi. Lots of interesting things. I will try and get through this list pretty sharpish because I think some of you will know these records, although I think there are some interesting ones here that I do want to spend a little bit of time talking about. I have most of the information of the presses, so I have it up here, so I might refer to that at some point. All right, this was an easy kickoff. This is Crooked Rain by Pavement. This is the UK first press from 1994. What a band, what an album out of Stockton, California. Slacker wit, cracked melodies. The music almost staggers out of the speakers at time, but there's a deep love of classic pop reflected back through a series of inside jokes and pretty louche, to say the least, instrumentation. But Crooked Rain is kind of where they landed with me anyway. This is the first Pavement album that I owned. I had it on CD. It has so many great songs. Gold Sounds, Range Life. Range Life is extraordinary. The Fillmore Jive, and that's just on side one. There is so much to enjoy. The production is definitely cleaner than Slanted and Enchanted, but I consider it to be charmingly askew. And this album was really at that point where I suppose 90s alt rock genuinely exploded into the mainstream. And so yeah, I loved it at the time. I love it now. This UK first press is the same one I have on my shelf. In fact, I found my copy in the UK when I was there in September last year, and it was probably my find of the trip. I love it. It's got real presence. It's really punchy. It sounds amazing, and on top of that, it's just a fantastic record. All right. Now, I'm pretty sure it's the UK first press. I hope it's not the US first press. I know it's the first press, but I'll double check in the notes on Wednesday. All right. Now, this is a record. I actually made the mistake of putting a picture of this up on Facebook in the marketplace earlier today, and I got an explosion of messages about this album. And then I realized I made a mistake and I should put it on the list tonight. So I'm ignoring all of the Facebook messages and it's coming to you guys first. This is And the Circus Leaves Town, which was Caius. I'm not sure actually what the correct pronunciation. Their 1995 album. Now this is a German press from 2016 and it is on this blue translucent vinyl. I've listened to the record. It sounds fantastic. There's a couple of creases on the sleeve. You can kind of see it there. But in general, really, really, really good. Sounds spectacular. This, I suppose, is the other side of the stoner coin. So if you think of slacker rock, Pavement, you got stoner rock here with Case. And you know what? They are burrowing or, I suppose, digging the same mine in my mind. This is down-tuned melodies, hypnotic grooves, and quite punkish. And you know what? So's Pavement in its own way. I think though the Pavement album is a more singular vision, and just kind of it hits with me more than this. But obviously, we know what this band became, and even though this record has a kind of a strange melancholy, I think that melancholy lives on in Queens of the Stone Age, and I, yeah, I can understand why people really, really like it. They're obviously massively influential. That translucent blue vinyl, by the way, visually, it's completely killer. This being the last Caius album as well, I suppose it's that, final will and testament of the band. Now, if I were to bet, I think this will be one of the most popular records in tonight's list. This is the UK first press of Silent Alarm by Block Party. Now, it's still in the shrink, but there's a little bit of damage on the sleeve just there, just a little bit. The records themselves are tremendous. These guys emerged out of London in the early 2000s. I think this was released in 2005. I suspect someone will correct me. But what you're talking about here is a band that almost defined that 2000s kind of post-punk, nervous, jittery revival. But they weren't following the trail blazed by the likes of Strokes and Interpol, who were kind of, I suppose, Joy Division-y. And this band was more political, more rhythmic, really sharp. Definitely, you can hear the club influence at the club era. This landed, man. This record was massive. There was a certain cohort in my university in Queens and Belfast who just worshipped this band. Critically, it went ballistic for them. And it does feel very urgent. It's about as mid-2000s as you can get. And so, yeah, I think that is, that's a fantastic version to have. These first presses. And by the way, this comes with an additional 12-inch. The Dim Mac remix. So side A, Positive Tension remix by Jason Clark and Johnny Whitney, and then side B, Price of Gas remix by Automato and Juice Ski. So has some added vinyl goodies in there. That one does. All right. Number 4 in the list is this. Now, this is numbered. Can you see that one? 505. So this was the first press of Travis's The Boy With No Name. Now, this is slightly later than Block Party. I think maybe a couple of years later, maybe 2007, 2008. So this is this is actually in fantastic condition. So out of Glasgow, Scotland, and this was a trend in the UK at the time for that kind of softer, more melodic lane that kind of became a thing in the late 2000s. And their career arc was kind of classic, huge breakthrough, solidified it with the Invisible Band in 2001, which I think is probably I don't know if it's their most famous album. I don't know, maybe this one is instead. But then they had the issue of trying to stay culturally relevant as these things shifted. I think this was probably released. Was it released in The Boy With No Name? Yeah, I suppose this is, that period when they were really trying to pull their sound together. It's still really warm, really earnest. Sounds really good. It's got an additional 7-inch and a fan club kind of entry form. I think it's a nice example, and pretty hard to find on vinyl. And if you're a Travis fan, I think you'd be pretty excited about that. All right, I have next Pennywise. This is called All or Nothing. This is from 2012. I'm pretty sure this is a US first press. I will confirm that on Wednesday. These guys come out of California, classic Southern Californian kind of punk, fast, anthemic, built for sweaty rooms and skater culture, I think, in many ways. Rapid gang shout choruses, really tight guitar, downstroke driven. I don't know. I think they're kind of fun. And so, if anyone knows why this album is so revered, because I've heard some great reviews, let me know. All right, let's move back to the 90s for something that is certainly revered, but not by me. This is Grace by Jeff Buckley. Now, this is the gold vinyl repress from, I think, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. I find this album to be practically unlistenable, insufferable, like nails on the proverbial chalkboard. I cannot stand it. I can't deal with anything from it. Lilac Wine wants me to go all lemming and jump off something high. I think the version of Leonard Cohen's Magnificent Hallelujah, I suppose it's great that this version brought that song into sharper focus, and I kind of like some of the guitar tones, but man, it's so worthy. I just can't be doing with it. And you know, the likes of, and the part of the reason is a song like The Last Goodbye. The first half is tremendous. I love the first half, but I cannot stand the song because in the second tranche of the song, he goes all kind of warbly, look how amazing my voice is, and it becomes turgid mess. I just can't understand it. What a lost opportunity. Maybe, you know, with a bit of luck, he would have done something very different. But there you go. Mojo Pin as well. I just can't stand it. I know a lot of you out there love it, so my apologies. All right, now a band I do love. This is the Pixies, and this is the UK 12-inch of Monkey Gone to Heaven. Now, it also has Manta Ray, Weird at My School, and Dancing the Manta Ray on the B-sides. Black Francis, Kim Deal, Joey Santiago, and David Lovering. What a band. And look at that sleeve. How cool is that? They did great stuff. I have all of their 12 inches already, which is why I'm happy to let that one go. Okay. I have another record from the 90s now. I think I would not surprise me if it came out in the same breath as Grace by Jeff Buckley, because it is another absolutely insufferable 90s album. And again, apologies in advance if you love this thing. This is Jagged Little Pill, Alanis Morissette. Now you might say, Stephen, it's an easy target. What's your problem? I just find the tone of the recordings in that era to be really difficult, especially if the aim of the production is to be played on the radio. Now, you contrast that to the production of Crooked Rain by Pavement, which in many ways is kind of timeless, because what they clearly did was allow the band to play in a room that was properly mic'd, and they just let it flow. Whereas Grace, I think they probably mic'd it really close to the strings, and certainly, you know, Jeff Buckley was right up close to that microphone. With this, what you get is a drum sound and a bass sound and a guitar sound where everything is at the same level, crashing into each other. There's nothing for me to latch on to. I suppose this is this whole argument about dynamism and range. Red Hot Chili Peppers is the same, Alanis Morissette's the same. It's just so tough. And I suppose you get that punchy alt-rock sound and crunchy guitars, but I just cannot cope with it. All right. Anyway, that's quite a nice pressing of that record. Fugazi, Margin Walker. Now, this is rare. This is the only pre-1990s record on here. It just came out at the tail end of 1989. This is the US first press of Margin Walker. Margin Walker and the Same, Burning 2, Provisional Lockdown, and Promises. Recorded on Discord. You're talking now really ethics-based post-punk, especially if you're into that frenzied space that the American post-punk bands occupied. Then this is Fugazi, just a little bit before they became Fugazi, and I suppose that foundational kind of period is really interesting if you like it. I played the first couple of tracks. I found it to be very lean. I liked how locked in the drums were, and obviously the vocals veer between conversation and confrontation, which I think is kind of typical of that kind of hardcore music. But yeah, very interesting and hard to find record. Talking about hard to find, I had some Veruca Salt on a previous list and it disappeared immediately. So this band has its audience. This is Resolver from 2000. Again, a little bit of those bands who kind of found and hit and then tried to remain relevant but had a core audience, and I think this is one of those. They had internal fractures and lineup shifts and all sorts that went on, but musically still pretty tight. I find this more listenable than Alanis Morissette. Hopefully someone somewhere will love that. That's a US first press in really, really nice condition. Continuing the theme of alt rock kind of female artists from the 90s, what about a couple of records from Liz Phair? Now, this is probably the most controversial and canonical record of its type from the 2000s. So Exile in Guyville landed, and I tell you, it detonated, particularly in America. The reviews, the coverage she got, because she was not afraid of her sexuality and quite, I suppose, to some people confronting, to other people just amazingly dynamic and brilliant. The fact that she hinted at nudity on the cover and then other things went on, she just was a bit of a lightning rod. Now, the thing about this album is it really does live up to the hype. This thing is undeniable, and I think its reputation has only grown in time, and I think in 20 years people will be looking back at this album still from the 90s and thinking of it in the same way that some of us think about the Minutemen from the 90s and others. This album has something to it. Now, this pressing is the 2008 repress. This thing weighs a ton. It's got double LP. It's also got a 7-inch and a CD, and it is in superb condition. If anyone else is an Exile and Guyville lover out there, please give me a shout. Interestingly, I personally don't think Exile and Guyville is her best album. I think her best album is this, Whip Smart from 1994. I know Exile and Guyville was a bombshell, and it is impossible to follow an instant classic. But I think it is a really cool record. It is definitely darker, moodier, a little bit more forensic in self-examination, and it doesn't quite have what's called, let's say, the cultural fireworks of the first record, but I think it's more varied. It's also significantly shorter and it's easier to consume. It's very atmospheric. I really like it. Now, this US first press was done. There's the really interesting artwork that came with it, but you will see it's pressed on white vinyl. I have no idea why, by the way. I can't I don't understand why that decision was made. There's nothing about the aesthetic here that suggests that that should be a thing. But it does make it very pretty on the table, and it sounds really good. Finally, one of my favorite bands from the 2000s. And whilst this isn't my favorite album of theirs, probably my second favorite, it's still really, really good. This is Some Cities by Doves. Doves came out of Manchester, England, and they are more widescreen, more emotional, really kind of post-Britpop, alternative, serious. I suppose, you know, they came up with the likes of Elbow and Mind a similar kind of turf. They were a really cool live band, and the bass player and singer was pretty great. It's dense, it's melodic. This is the UK first press and is in superb condition as a real collector's copy, that is. All right, now we've ranged from Pavement to Chaos to Block Party, Pennywise, Jeff Buckley, Alanis Morissette, Pixies, Liz Phair, Doves. Please let me know what you think of that list. All of those will be for sale, all various different things. Now, I will say, just for those of you who are taking note, that I'm just going to make sure I've got this right. So Crooked Rain is, I believe, the US first press, is in superb condition. The Case is 2016 German repress on blue translucent vinyl. Block Party, 2005 US first press, still in the shrink with an additional 12-inch. Travis, The Boy With No Name, that's a 2007 UK first press. Pennywise, 2012 US first press. Jeff Buckley, the 2019 gold vinyl version. Pixies, Monkey Gone to Heaven is the UK 12-inch first press. Alanis Morissette, the 2012 US repress, that's in superb condition, by the way. Fugazi, 1989 US first press. Veruca Salt, 2000 US first press. Liz Phair, Exile and Guyville is the 2008 US repress with the 7-inch and CD. Whip Smart is the 1994 US first press on white vinyl, my highlight of this list. And then finally, Doves Some Cities, the 2005 UK first press in superb condition. There you go. If you would like to receive the price list in order to acquire these records, drop me an email, shortcutsrecordsaus@gmail.com. Please like, subscribe. I don't get many comments. If you get a moment, drop me a comment. I will reply. And thank you if you made it this far. Bye.